Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and the upcoming segment is from our full Fast Break podcast that we recorded. And if you do want to check out that full podcast, head over to Blog Talk Radio /The Fast Break. You'll be able to find the full podcast over there. Let's now move on to the 76ers, weirdly enough. And the discussion here is, will the 76ers have two top 10 picks now? Because that Laker pick, it's not going to be in the top 3 as of right now. It's currently at 7th. So that means the 76ers, if the lottery falls in exact same order, that means the Philadelphia 76ers will have the number 2 overall pick and the number 7th overall pick.
At the time we're recording this, it is 2 losses away from being the number 3.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that's we're
and this Laker team hasn't shown much promise this last month. Woo!
But one thing I want to bring up here, the process worked because you have Joel Embiid, you have Nerlens Noel, Jahlil Okafor, Ben Simmons, and now possibly 2 top 10 picks.
And then next year you also have more picks, and then the following year you have more picks because guess what? Hinky's a fucking god.
And there was I forget what it was, but I
build your
remember there
system.
was someone in our comments and they brought up that the 76ers process has not worked.
It's not done.
If you look at this, the process is not done. Exactly. Ben Simmons hasn't played. Joel Embiid's looking like a monster out there, and then you have 2 guys that are possibly worth at least lottery picks in Ja and Nerlens Noel, at least.
Yeah.
So you look at this, and you're able to flip it for more. I look at this, and I think that the way that everything's falling, I think that the Lakers are not as bad as a team. The only way that they will get into the top 3 is if they trade Lou Williams and they trade Nick Young and just completely go young and pretty much go, Mozgov, Dang, Jose Calderon in their starting lineup.
Wow, that's very young.
They got to be bad. Well, no, I'm saying like they shit.
Sorry about that.
Jose Calderon.
I misspoke
Remember
there.
he was a bull?
I don't. I blocked it out.
I misspoke there. But anyways.
No, I know what you're saying. And they recently, actually, they let the young kids try to finish out. The young kids, I do actually mean the young ones this time, not the people in the 30s.
Yeah.
And they lost the game because they couldn't close it out correctly, but it's still that experience. And I think that Luke Walton is, at this point in the year, just kind of going, you know what? I just want to let them play, let them get some experience. We're going to lose some games, but guess what? I'm going to do it the right way, Tank Commander. We're going to get these guys experience.
Tank Commander.
Yeah, that's because... Oh, man, Tank Commander. He did his job, though. But look, this is a team that has a ton of young guys who... And you're right. If they get rid of Sweet Lou and Uncle P, then they're set. They're absolutely set.
There you go. But looking at this, I mean, the process has completely paid off because now you have so many movable assets and so many assets that can build a championship here. Because then if you look at what Chad Ford put out, because we're finally going to actually look at and reference Chad Ford's mock draft. Took forever. But looking at it now, I mean, the way that it is set up, if it will ever pull up for me, it is really the 76ers will have Lonzo Ball is where he currently has the 76ers selecting at 2. So you'll have Lonzo Ball, a guy that Ricky thinks can be a complete difference maker and should be the number 1 overall pick. So then 76ers are getting a guy that's worth a number 1 overall pick there. So they has Lonzo Ball at 2, and then all the way at 7, where they're currently picking, he has a guy like Jason Tatum, who's a forward, which it might be a difficult fit because you do have Ben Simmons there, and I mean the 76ers have about 45 forwards on their roster right now. But looking at this, I mean, you're getting guys that can be complete difference makers. And another thing, too, I mean, there is a guy in Francis Ntilikina. I'm going to fuck this up. Francis Ntilikina. You said it right.
I'm not going to say it again.
Francis Ntilikina. Yeah, that was it. Ntilikina. Who is
At least you tried, Sean. More effort than I did.
It's really hard to watch these highlights and these tapes of these guys when there's no actual play-by-play to learn this guy's names. And then when he says it, he's speaking it so fast and in a French accent, I can't understand him. But he's a guy who's 18-year-old. He's a guard. He's from France, so you can put him overseas and let him wait, and then you'll have a guys like Lonzo Ball, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid play together next year, and you have a guy waiting in the wings. And I gotta just go.
Show him Frank.
Yeah, Frank.
Just call him by his first name.
Frank Yen. You have a guy in Frank where he can be a guy who can come over later and he could be developed and come off the bench for you, and you'll have Lonzo Ball, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and then you can trade guys like Nerlens and Ja, and if they have these 2 top 10 picks, which I think they will, it's going to change the culture of the 76ers.
Yeah, it could be absolutely huge for them, but I don't think they're going to have 2. I think the Lakers are going to swindle their way to number 3. I think it's going to happen again, and I think that'll be like the final, like, here's your final piece, Lakers. You can now go forward and win games. It's unfortunate for the 76ers because, I mean, that would be friggin' sweet if they got it. But let's be fair. Like you said, this is a low team with a ton of assets. So I think even with 1 first overall this year, they're fine. They'll have, I think, the Kings in 2019. They'll have an unprotected pick there. So it's not like they're starving for draft picks. They will continue to have more and more picks in the coming future. I think this year you have to go out and nail that guard, though. Whether it's Fultz at the 1 overall, if they don't get that, either Dennis Smith or Lonzo Ball. And really, the only thing that I think that Lonzo Ball might be a good fit for them is because they have someone like Ben Simmons who's going to be expected to have the ball in his hands more often. So you don't really need a guy who is as ball heavy as Fultz. So I think that even if they don't get the 1 overall and like we expect the Nets to lose out.
But it could also be like a look at the Cavaliers where they have LeBron who can have the ball in his hands, but they also have Kyrie who's the point guard who can have the ball in his hands.
No, that's
and
fair.
They can play.
I'm not saying Lonzo Ball's not a point guard. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying they could.
It would be an okay fit
like that. Like LeBron and Kyrie can also have the ball in their hands.
And the one thing that's kind of a downside here for the 76ers is there's no guy like a Jamal Murray who can be a deadly outside 3-point shooter, or Buddy Hield who could be a deadly outside 3-point shooter. Malik Monk is a very inconsistent 3-point shooter if you look at his stats.
But when he's hot.
But how many times in an 82 game season is he going to be able to get hot, Dave?
Fire.
He's not going to be a deadly outside shooter.
He could be if you're drawing attention down low with Ja and Ben Simmons.
Dave, the full 1 game you watched of Malik Monk,
I watched more than 1 game.
Sorry, but
I watched 4.
Talking about that Louisville game.
4 whole games.
The Louisville and
Didn't
UNC
he miss the game winner in that game too?
Anyways.
Didn't he miss the game winner, Dave?
he was like 1 for 11 at that point.
But what I'm saying is there's no guy who there's stories coming out where Jamal Murray was hitting 77 of 100 threes or 93, whatever he hit last year.
Everybody worked out for the Celtics.
Everybody want to work out for the Celtics. It's about 97 out of 100 threes. Yeah, it's fucking outrageous. They're just making up shit. They moved the line in 3 feet and they repaint it.
You a little salty?
No, I'm just saying it was. Come on, we heard 5 stories. We heard 5 stories about people breaking their own records for 3-pointers. I think the Celtics just draw the line in a couple feet.
I gotta give it though. Malik Monk was 5 of 7 his past 2 games from 3.
The one thing I want to mention,
in that Louisville game though.
The one thing I want to mention, this goes for either the Sixers and the Lakers or the Sixers, and it goes back to your point, Sean, where we had a fan and fellow listener kind of comment and say, you know what, like teams should be penalized for kind of tanking and going through what the Sixers are, the process. The one thing I want to throw out, and of course it wasn't a full-on process, it was just they had the 7th overall pick in 2009, which they took to take Steph Curry. That Warriors team didn't immediately become the best team in the West. They finished 13th, 12th, 13th, then finally made the playoffs that 4th year as the 6th seed. Made the playoffs twice without getting past not even the semifinals was the farthest they went.
Yeah.
And they didn't turn it on until his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, till his 6th season in the year, and that's when they won the finals.
And looking at this too, again, I mean, the process
and that was just 1 first-round pick. Now you got Embiid, Simmons. It's going to get there.
The process,
you just gotta wait.
The process has worked, and teams should not be penalized for doing this because this is how you rebuild. Teams should be penalized for being mediocre consistently, aka the Chicago
Phoenix
Bulls.
Suns.
Yeah, they're still tanking. They're still at in the bottom. I mean,
but I mean, like, do you remember for about 7 years there, they were like 35 to 42 wins. And they couldn't get fucking anywhere.
I'm saying more like the Chicago Bulls right now.
Well, right now, yeah, it's relevant.
Like, kind of like a playoff team where they just want to get fans in.
Well, is it fair? Like,
I'm not getting out of Bulls talk.
No. I was going 76ers. Is the process? Is the process
you gotta always
fair?
be yanking that leash with you.
No. Is the process fair to fans? No. And if you're a fan, either the NBA or the 76ers, it's okay to not like a team like the Sixers doing the process because it's basically saying, hey, we are going to deliberately suck, deliberately have, I'm going to say bad basketball out there because how do you get the number 1 pick? You have bad basketball. And eventually we're going to be good. As a fan, I wouldn't like it. If I was a fan of the Sixers, I would kind of tone out. I would say, you know what? I ain't going to watch.
But that's okay. They're giving you a worse product right now in order to give you the best possible product in the future. It's a takeaway a little now, give you a little bit more later.
You got to be patient. And Ricky, I want to apologize.
It's the process.
Thought you were going to Bulls Rant
No,
real quick.
and it's because there's no farm system in basketball. It's like what the 76ers are doing are kind of like what Theo did with my Cubs. The only difference is I didn't lose interest in the Cubs because the Cubs in baseball have this thing called a farm system where you can send players and develop them.
I mean, your major league teams suck too.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean, you can say, hey, we're developing players
and
not be at the major league level.
Anyways, Ricky, want to apologize for thought you were going on a Bulls rant there. It was a very good point.
I took I've taken the criticism from our fans.
Should definitely be a kind of a what's it called, farm league in the NBA. I couldn't think of farm league.
I think it's called the D League.
Yeah,
you know what?
a true D League though.
Yeah.
No, but like that's the thing. Like the D League, I mean, it doesn't really help that much. I mean, you're not going to put a guy in the D League.
I know there's a team called the Vipers, and that's it. I think the Grand Valley Vipers.
I'm
something
sure.
like that.
There's the Lakers.
The Iowa Energy. That's them too. Yeah.
Isn't that a WNBA team?
No.
It could be. It sounds like.
Who cares? But really, the D League doesn't do its true purpose. It's really just guys that might make the bench one day. And there's obviously those one guys like Hassan Whiteside that really come out and show. But most likely, it's guys that are going to be picked in the second round. And no one really cares about watching them. But moving on now, because we talked about the 76ers, I think we all think that they're going to most likely. You think that they're not going to have 2 top 10 picks.
I do not. I think Magic's going to happen. Tinfoil hat on.
Are we talking about Sixers with 2?
Yes. Sixers
no. Lakers are getting a top 3 pick.
Sixers are getting 2. Sixers are getting 2. I think the Lakers will push up. I know the whole Lou Williams things, but there's so much mediocrity, and I just think that Miami's going to trade Goran Dragic, and they're going to fall off completely. The Mavericks just suck, and they don't even need to trade anyone away to suck. The Nets suck, and if they trade away Brook Lopez,
the Mavericks can beat the Lakers.
If the Nets trade away Brook Lopez, there's no team there in Brooklyn anymore. But now, thank you. Oh shit. Oh, it's just one of our videos scared me a little bit. Don't forget to check out that one. And also don't forget to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.